Fragrances every man should keep a secret. When we created Atrium and made our fragrances limited edition, there were two camps of thought. Some people hated the fact that they may fall in love with one of our creations and then not be able to acquire them afterwards. However, there are other people who also said that they like the fact they were limited edition because they like fragrances being unique to themselves. I know logically you might think we should be gatekeeping fragrances, but at the same time, emotionally deep down, all of us want to feel unique and want to have a sort of presentation that matches us and is not copied by other people, because then what do you become? You become a little bit more forgettable and you kind of get drowned out in a sea of other people all wearing Sauvage, and your unique factor doesn't get emphasized. So I have 8 fragrances today that, although some of these may be relatively well known in the fragrance community, on a practical level in your day-to-day lives, it's very unlikely other people will know about these, and you can kind of gatekeep these, keep them a secret and wear them as your unique signature. Let's begin. Penhaligon's Blazing Mr. Sam. This might be one of the safest and easiest fragrances in the brand of Penhaligon's. Penhaligon's does very traditionally British, gentlemanly fragrances, although they do both genders as well in their collections. But I think this and Sartorial might be the easiest fragrances to rock from Penhaligon's, a great way to introduce yourself into the brand. To me, Blazing Mr. Sam is their most popular fragrance, Halfeti, reimagined in a more modern and easier to love way. This smells spicy, ambery, boozy, warm, woody, but instead of focusing on this synthetic oud note that Halfeti had, it kind of tones that down. It kind of toned down patchouli, so this is a bit more bright, easier to like, and they focus more on the sexy aspects of the fragrance. It kind of becomes more of a really sexy evening scent in my opinion. Blazing Mr. Sam is a really sexy fragrance that smells expensive, smells elegant, and lasts a good amount of time, around 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours maybe. So I think it's absolutely worth the money because of how beautifully blended it is, how easy it is to love. It is a very distinct fragrance. I don't think anyone else is going to smell like you when you wear this. Penhaligon's isn't that popular of a brand. They're not one of the mainstream ones, or the most mainstream ones anyways. Of course, they're still popular, but Blazing Mr. Sam, I feel like this could be a really unique evening signature for you to wear most of the year round. Le Labo's Another 13. To me, this is probably the best fragrance in the Le Labo range. I did a buying guide for them and I kind of just hated on all their fragrances basically. I was a little bit harsh, but a few of them I did like, and I think Another 13 back then I said it was #1. And I like this fragrance. Basically, I would say this is kind of like the upgrade fragrance from those people who love minimalist fragrances, molecule-based fragrances like Eccentric Molecule 01, which is just pure Isoe Super. This to me is Isoe Super mixed with musks that smell expensive and long lasting. It has Ambrette in here as well, Ambretolide, which is a ambery, clean musk. It's a very sexy fragrance that has all these really nice mass appealing molecules in here. It is synthetic lab molecule perfumery, but sort of like the slightly more nuanced ambered version of Molecule 01. So if you want to upgrade, you want a really sexy, ambery, musky DNA to your signature, this is a great fragrance that performs really well, at least 12 hours. It's a very good, long-lasting fragrance. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but it's not too bad actually. I think it's kind of worth it for the fact that you can't really find any other fragrance like this on the market from what I can tell. And I think this will be a high compliment factor kind of fragrance. It works pretty much for everyone. It's a unisex fragrance that lasts a really long time, so check it out if you haven't. 32% of people who watch School of Scent are subscribed to us. If you guys want to see our channel grow, to really help us out, click subscribe. Let's get that number to 40%. Thank you. Terence Hughes Hard Candy. So I've always talked about this fragrance many times on the channel. It is a very mass appealing niche fragrance. I think, again, one of the easier fragrances to get into the Terence Hughes brand with. It is oud, niche, dark perfume that he loves, but then balanced out with citruses, interesting notes like strawberry in here. It's a very fruity, candied-like fragrance that is surprisingly versatile. This could be your signature as well if you want a lot of compliments. I would imagine this being a high compliment factor fragrance. It lasts a really long time as well, around 12 hours with a medium to loud projection. So this is a beastly fragrance that smells super mass appealing. For those kind of guys who like those fruitier fragrances like Ultramalt, but you want it to be more versatile, less annoying, more niche, has some real oud in there, check out Hard Candy. And then we have the brand of Floris, but more specifically their Santal release. This is a fragrance that's in this sample set here, and I think Floris is just a very classically gentlemanly English brand that's been around since like the 18th century. It's been around for a very long time, and they have very classical perfume, but Santal was their 2022 release, And I actually have a sample of Santal Intense on the way. I've actually smelled Santal Intense, but Santal's a very good release because it's kind of like they took their classical gentlemanly style, and instead of having these 70s smelling vetiver or barbershop fragrances, they've made it their own blue fragrance, essentially. Santal's like their blue fragrance. You can go for the Eau de Toilette, or I recommend go for the brand new Intense, which I think is a 2024 release. I think it literally just came out like a few weeks ago. I like the Santal DNA though. They're basically very similar. Santal Intense, I think, is just an Eau de Parfum instead of being an Eau de Toilette like the original. So Santal, the DNA is spicy, blue, fresh out of the shower, sandalwood is how I would describe it. It has interesting notes like cardamom and nutmeg in there. It's got black pepper as well, I think. It's got these very interesting spices in here. It makes it smell more natural than most blue fragrances. If you're looking for a niche level blue fragrance, go for Santal. It unfortunately doesn't last the longest amount of time. The Eau de Toilette around maybe 6 hours, I think, but the Intense on the one spray I tried on the back of my hand seems to be longer lasting, and they don't modify the scent profile too much. So I think this is a great blue niche fragrance you can wear most of the year round. It might not be the best in the summertime. You have to maybe go a little bit less heavy on the trigger, but I think it's a very versatile, sexy DNA. It might be a really new up and coming blue fragrance hit in the community. Guerlain's Homme Eau de Parfum. A lot of people know Guerlain for the L'Homme Ideal line. A lot of people might be sleeping on this, the Homme Eau de Parfum release. This smells like a minty, fresh, balanced mojito cocktail with a lot of muskiness underneath. This is a really sexy signature. If you want class and elegance that Guerlain is known for, you like minty fragrances that are done really sexy, because mint can kind of smell a little bit too piercing and more serious sometimes, but this is done in a really beautiful way. It lasts about 6 hours, not the longest lasting fragrance, so go a little bit heavier on the trigger, spray on your clothes, and this could be an easy signature fragrance. You want to smell clean, distinct, but at the same time elegant. Don't sleep on this fragrance. This is one of my favorite recent discoveries. Mancera's Amore Caffe. Speaking of favorite recent discoveries, one of the sexiest evening fragrances. I'm not usually a fan of gourmand scents, but Amore Caffe just does it for me. It's a very interesting, creative, powdery, almost like lipsticky kind of smelling fragrance. It's unisex, definitely, but at the same time, it just works somehow. So it has like strange components to it, but it's such a beautiful and interesting fragrance. You know, when you have one of those fragrances that you can't stop smelling, it kind of keeps you intrigued every single time you wear it. Amore Caffe does that for me. Got really interesting notes like tiramisu, like a black coffee note in here, some brown sugar to sweeten it up, vanilla. We have amaretto liqueur, ice cream notes, really interesting note breakdown, but overall, it just smells like a really well-balanced, sweet coffee fragrance. I know I said sweet, but it is at the same time well-balanced. It's really strange to explain. It smells like an evening scent that basically just isn't going to be annoying. It's not overly cloying. It's one of the best Mancera releases, easily, in my opinion. One of my favorites from them. I would say Cedar Boisé Intense might be my favorite in the daytime, and then I would go for this in the evening. If you want like a two-man army for Mancera, just those two, I think that'll do it for you for most of the year round. A fantastic office fragrance that I've actually ordered a bottle of. I actually got it for my dad as well recently, or I think it was actually a year ago, but yeah, I got it for my dad. Acqua de Parma Colonia Essenza. Might be the best Acqua de Parma fragrance. It is a fantastic office fragrance. If you want a more mature office fragrance, this is phenomenal. And what's even better about this fragrance is that it's often found on discounters online, really cheap, half its usual price. I think it's usually RRPs at £150. You can usually find it for £75. This is designer level, mid-range designer level perfumery for something that smells niche. It is barbershop perfumery. It's very citrus focused. It's very neroli focused. If you want to experience great neroli perfumery, that soapy, clean aspect of neroli that lasts a really long time. That neroli is usually quite a short lasting note. It's usually a top note, I believe, but in the Colonia Essenza they've somehow elongated it and made it a very soapy, clean barbershop scent that has a lot of character. It's very distinct. If you like neroli, this is the fragrance for you, and it lasts a really long time, around 10 hours with a medium projection, even though I think they classify it as an eau de cologne. I'm not sure how, because it's a beastly fragrance. So if you need a new office fragrance, consider this fragrance. It's going for an absolute steal most of the time in online discounters. And lastly on this list, it's Memoirs of a Perfume Collector, Trouble in Paradise. This brand is just great in general. They're very much up and coming because of the fact that I kept mentioning them. I'm actually getting more and more in touch with the founders. I really like them. They did send this bottle to me for free for transparency's sake, but that's after I talked about their other fragrances that I purchased myself. And the first fragrance I tried from them was Tales from Zanzibar, super interesting guava and oud, super long lasting summertime fragrance, which was fantastic. I also recommend that from them. That can be your first fragrance you try from them. Trouble in Paradise is phenomenal as well. Most people who I've shown this to have absolutely loved this. Mango, tropical, summertime perfumery with muskiness in here. I think there's oud in here as well, caramel, rum notes. It has a lot of aspects to it. It's like a gourmand mango tropical scent that for people who love niche perfumery, this brand, you should not sleep on them. I get 6 to 8 hours with this with around a soft to medium projection. I think this is an incredibly sexy summertime signature. I think you could really easily stand out with this. Most fragrances on the market don't smell like this at all. It's super creative perfumery done in a really mass appealing way. And that concludes this video, guys. I want to know, I always like to ask in this video series, do you guys agree or disagree with the idea of gatekeeping fragrances? Remember what I said in the beginning, I think emotionally, we love to be unique, we love to stand out and have our own stuff, guys. I don't like smelling like every other average Joe out there personally, and maybe you don't either, especially if you're a fragrance hobbyist. So that's why I like doing this fragrance series. Let us know other fragrances that you would personally gatekeep to your daily friends, but you don't mind sharing with us in this community. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our previous video on fragrances you should keep a secret. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.